Hello, this is Abram with Abram's Health and Fitness, and today in this episode I'm going to be talking about risk and embracing the suck. So this is going to be really helpful for people that are making really big decisions in their life. Maybe it is, should we have more kids? Maybe it's, should we buy this house? Or what should I choose as my major in college? Or should I quit my job? There's very big decisions that we make in life, and they're really scary because they have a high degree of risk. So these are techniques that I've learned, and these are not ones that I came up with. I learned these from much smarter people than me. I'm going to teach you how to look at it both logically and help to look at it emotionally in a way that makes the risk to mitigate the potential downside while maximizing the potential upside, and look at it logically and help with the emotional side. So risk is a good thing. You know, like it's the being scared of risk though can really hold us back from living the life that we want to live. And risk is scary for a reason. Like it keeps us it keeps us in our comfort zone. It keeps us really feeling safe and not doing dangerous things. So there's a reason why we feel the risk. The problem comes if you're like me and you're like, you know, I was working a corporate job, absolutely hated my quote-unquote comfortable life, and I was trying to make the decision, should I quit my job and go all in into an entrepreneurial venture? Like, is it worth my time and energy to quit my job and then go full-time into just being my own type of entrepreneur and have my own business? I have a health and fitness company that I have, Abrams Health and Fitness, and it's done really well. But this is what I did before I decided to jump all in as an entrepreneur. And I'm hoping this will give you a lot of insight into the process you can take if you're also making some big life decisions. So we're going to start with the logical side. So one of the exercises I'll walk through people, because I talk to a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs or newer entrepreneurs or even seasoned entrepreneurs that want to take their business to the next level. I talk to like hundreds of these types of people. So I've noticed that one of the things that can really help them, and one of the things that I did, is something called fear setting. This is something I got from Tim Ferriss. He has a whole TED Talk on it, but I'll explain what it is right here. You essentially have 3 columns. So you just take like a notepad or a piece of paper, you make 3 columns. One column is worst case scenario. The next column is what can I do to mitigate the potential risk and how can I get back to where I was? And then the third column is what is the best case scenario? What is like the absolute best thing that could happen if this were to happen? So we're going to use me as an example. So I was trying to decide, should I quit my job and go all in as an entrepreneur? What's the worst case scenario? So right now, I'm living with my wife. I have 3 kids. I have my brother living with me. We are all living under my house that I paid a mortgage on. So we're literally dependent on my income. And so the potential downside is if I go all in with my entrepreneurial venture, I get literally 0 online clients. I continue to make no money. I end up losing my home. I lose confidence in my ability to make money and be a self-sufficient person. That makes my marriage fall apart, so my wife leaves me. I get into drugs and alcohol, so now I can't even see my kids anymore, and then I fall into this pit of depression that I can't climb myself out of. So you can see I went absolute worst case scenario on purpose, because you're gonna need this. This is that logical side. So this is the worst case scenario I can imagine. Obviously that's really horrible, but that's the worst case scenario if I were to go all in as an entrepreneur and it completely bombs and it does not work. Now, the second column, what can I do to try to mitigate the potential risk of that happening? So what I can do is, and I actually did this with my wife so we can figure this out. This is exactly what I went over. I could get a job as a personal trainer somewhere. I'm absolutely positive I could get a job as a personal trainer at any big box gym, because I've been a personal trainer for a decade. So that wouldn't be a problem. I could get another corporate job. I could just apply for those, get another steady income job, and that I could do that. I could even get a minimum wage job. I could work at Dollar Tree or McDonald's or something. I would hope I could be able to be qualified enough to get a job like that. and then I would have some income. And then I could also, one of the things that my wife and I will do, we'll typically do this in the summer, but we could do this year round, I guess, is we would buy like sectional couches on the Facebook Marketplace and then deep clean them and then resell them. And we'd make like a couple $1,000s a month doing that. So I could do that. I could go back to doing that and just do that full time and try to make enough money to pay our mortgage and our bills and everything. So that's another thing I could do. We could also like sell our stuff, like not just like those couches. We could sell like, I could sell like my air conditioner, I could sell like my TV up here, I could sell my computer, I could sell the microphone, I could sell all this stuff. So we can sell a lot of the stuff we already have and then be able to afford our mortgage and stuff while I'm still trying to have that runway. Another thing I could do is I could hire like a professional to do like my branding, and I could hire a professional business coach, I could hire a mentor, I could do different things like that. All these different ways. I just came up with like, I don't know, 10 different ways I can mitigate that worst case scenario from happening. So that's the worst case scenario. Those are ways I can mitigate the chances of that happening. So now that I know what I can do that's in my control to help mitigate that, now let's go into the best case scenario. What is the best case scenario that I quit my job, I go all in as an entrepreneur? What are the things that could happen? I could stop complaining about my corporate job every day. I wouldn't hate my life anymore. I would wake up happy every single day of my life. I could make more money than I've ever made before. I could work less and actually spend more time with my family. I'd be able to vacation more than I've ever been able to before. There's so many potential upsides. I could make enough money to take like my family on vacations. I could pay for my parents' retirement. There's so many things I could do if I'm successful and fulfilled with my career. There's so many. I'm excited just thinking about that best case scenario, which is what I'm aspiring for. So the best case scenario seems really good, and so this is the fear setting. Worst case scenario, lose my home, my whole life turns into a spiraling depression. How can I mitigate that? I could get other jobs, I could sell stuff, I could do different things that would help me take any amount of income without having to go back to that corporate job. And even if I needed to, I could get another corporate job if I started applying myself. Best case scenario, I'm living a life where I'm actually happy every day. I wake up happy and I feel fulfilled because I'm helping people. There's so many potential upsides to it. So now, with the fear setting, I've now looked at my risk logically. So that is worst case scenario, how can I mitigate it? Best case scenario. So that's a logical look at it. Now, that's what you should do too. If you're going through this big type of decision in your life where you're like, this has a high degree of risk, should I do it? Do that fear setting exercise first. Then from there, that does not take care of the emotional side of it. So sure, logically, I know that worst case scenario probably won't happen. But emotionally, it doesn't really make me feel a whole lot better. Still, there's the anxiety about, oh crap, now I gotta like get good at what I'm doing. Now I have to, I really need to make this work. If I, what can I do to like make this happen? Like, and I didn't even talk about the fact that, I actually did do this thing, and I did end up investing in a mentor, and I got a second mortgage on my house, or like a home equity line of credit, because it was like over $10,000. So that's like a big risk. To spend 10 grand on someone is a lot of money, to be able to spend on like a mentor. But that was one of the things I could do to mitigate the potential risk though. So those are the logical things. For the emotional side, I learned this from, what the heck was his name? It was from Letters to Seneca. So this was like either like a Greek or Roman Stoic that was writing to an emperor at the time or something along those lines. And he said the same thing that David Goggins said. And David Goggins is like this ultra endurance athlete who's like a ranger, a Navy SEAL, who was like over 300 pounds and ran an ultra marathon. Like, this guy is insane. And he's able to accomplish all these things. This like emperor from thousands of years gave the exact same advice to them. And they didn't know about each other. But basically what the advice is to embrace the suck. Practice your worst case scenario so emotionally you never have to worry about actually hitting it. Because the fear of the unknown is what causes that anxiety, is what causes that fear. So the way you get better emotionally over deciding whether or not like this risk is really worth it is you practice that worst case scenario. So worst case scenario, we'll use that quitting my corporate job, going full time. So if that worst case scenario happens, what happens to me? I'll lose my house. I'll have to go. I'll have to start sleeping in my car. I won't be able to pay for heat, so I'll have to take cold showers. I will have to have almost no money, and then that means that I would have to live on a very small income when it comes to actually being able to afford what I eat. So what did I do? I actually practiced that worst case scenario. So I slept in my car. We went on a trip to another state, and I slept in my car. It was very cramped because, you know, I have a pretty big SUV, but it was me, my 3 kids, my wife, my brother. We were all in there, and then I slept in there while my brother was driving. So I was like I slept in there. I could see what it was like. It sucked, but it wasn't that bad. Like, I still got by. I slept okay. Like, I didn't die from it. Like, it wasn't that bad. Same thing with the if I had to take cold showers. I started taking cold showers because it sucked, and that makes me practice it. I actually kept taking cold showers because I found it was a really big improvement for my depression. It's one of the things that really helped to alleviate the amount of depression I was feeling. So I still take cold showers to this day, but that's me embracing the suck, practicing that worst case scenario. And then I also practiced having almost no money in order to make us be able to survive. So can we live on $50 to $75 a week to feed our whole family? Yes, I know that for a fact because I practiced it. Now I practiced the worst case scenario while I had the ability to live in my current life. And on top of that, it made me feel a lot better about my current situation too. So not only did I practice that my worst case scenario, now I know both logically and emotionally how I'm going to feel if that worst case scenario happens. And honestly, that worst case scenario isn't that bad. I've done it. It was unpleasant, but I got by. I can make it work. Suddenly, now that opens up the doors. How much risk is there really? The risk is I have to do this worst case scenario, but the risk for me was I stay in my corporate job I hate every day of my life, or I go all in with my entrepreneurial venture, high potential upside, and even if I have that downside, it's not that bad. So, and just to give you an idea of like what ended up happening, if you're not familiar with me and my story, so I did quit my corporate job. I spent 10 plus grand on a business coach and a mentor, and I'm totally comfortable name dropping. It was Hannah Chan. She completely changed my life. Like, I was able to have a profitable business I was able to make a return on my investment in like a month and a half just through following her advice, shortcutting that process. So by following that list of how I can mitigate it, that helped me come up with concrete steps that I could do in order to see the success I wanted to see. Now I'm getting closer and closer to that ideal life. So I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying if you have these big decisions in life, do the fear setting exercise. Worst case scenario, how can you mitigate it? What's the best possible situation? And then you need to embrace the suck, practice the worst case scenario, and then emotionally you'll feel better. Do that, and then the way you look at risk will change forever, and you'll make much better decisions. I hope that you got some insight from this. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope you liked this video, and thank you for watching.